Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Diary from On the Hot Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of MMA inside the UFC world. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my thoughts on the UFC 305 main event that's slated to take place in the middleweight division between the returning Israel Adesanya and the reigning defending middleweight champion Dricus Du Plessis. So, on August 17th, we will see the return of Israel Adesanya, one of the greatest middleweight champions in UFC history. He will be returning back to the octagon. At that point, it will nearly be a 12-month absence from the UFC. And his return, it is not an easy task and not an easy walk in the ballpark. He'll be in a middleweight championship match against the reigning defending middleweight champion Dricus Du Plessis in the main event of UFC 305. So, my thoughts on this fight right here. I think this is going to be one hell of a fight in the main event of UFC 305 between Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis, because we know the bad blood is there. We know the beef is there between the two respective middleweight fighters. Remember last year when Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis were arguing at UFC 290, when Dricus Du Plessis at the time picked up the biggest win of his career, defeating Robert Whittaker by knockout, sending a strong message to Israel Adesanya, who at the time had the middleweight championship. And those guys were barking up a storm in the octagon, face-to-face, toe-to-toe, arguing with each other. And that was really the fight that we were supposed to get in September last year. At the time, Dricus Du Plessis could not participate in that UFC event. He was injured. I believe it was a foot injury. So that's how we got Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland for the middleweight championship. And of course, the rest is history. But now, I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think this could be an incredible fight at the middleweight division, because you have Dricus Du Plessis, who is trying to climb back into at the top of the mountain, this middleweight division. I mean, he's a two-time middleweight champion, one of the greatest middleweight champions of all time. Then you have Dricus Du Plessis, who has arrived now, defeating Sean Strickland for the middleweight championship earlier this year in the UFC world. So we're going to see if Dricus Du Plessis is still going to be the man that we talk about at the king of the mountain and the middleweight division. And then you have Israel Adesanya. We're going to see if he can climb the mountain one more time and become a three-time middleweight champion in the UFC. I think that's going to be one hell of a main event for UFC 305. And my prediction on that, I'm going to save who I believe is going to win for down the line. But I can see this fight going in two ways. One, in a dangerous striking battle where someone gets knocked out, possibly between the first 3 rounds. Or we can see a bloodbath fight, a back-and-forth encounter for the middleweight championship, going all 5 championship rounds, heading into the judges' scorecards, which I believe somebody, if that happens, somebody will win that fight by split decision. So I think for fingers crossed that we get one hell of a fight in the main event of UFC 305 between Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis. But before I end this segment, and before I end this video, I have something else that I do believe that could transpire in the middleweight division by the end of the calendar year 2024. How do I see the middleweight division playing out? How do I see the landscape of the middleweight division playing out by the end of 2024? And I believe by the end of 2024, in the second part of 2024, we should see Sean Strickland versus Robert Whittaker in a middleweight title eliminator fight. The winner of that fight should be in line to fight the winner of Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis at whoever wins that fight at UFC 305. Because I'm saying this because Robert Whittaker just came off an impressive first-round knockout victory when the UFC just had their first event, the first ever event in company's history that took place in Saudi Arabia this past weekend. And then you just had Sean Strickland, who just came off a snooze fest win, but as I digress, a win against Paulo Costa by unanimous decision at UFC 302. So looking at this, Sean Strickland, I do believe, should take this fight against Robert Whittaker by the end of 2024, because Sean Strickland has said he wants to fight, he wants to get back in line for a middleweight championship opportunity. But Robert Whittaker is also in an argumentative picture that he also should be in line for the middleweight contention as well in this division right now. So both are worthy of being in the middleweight championship contention right now. I mean, both lost to Dricus Du Plessis, both defeated Paulo Costa by unanimous decision recently in the UFC. So I feel like this fight should happen And the winner between Robert Whittaker and Sean Strickland should be next in line to fight Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis, whoever wins that fight at UFC 305. So that's how I would book the middleweight division for the rest of the 2024, because these four competitors are all capable of holding that middleweight championship, depending on which version of themselves come at fight night. Because I'm liking the version I'm seeing with Robert Whittaker. I know Sean Strickland has more in his arsenal than what we're seeing. I know Israel Adesanya, one of the most dangerous, ruthless, greatest middleweight champions of all time, can climb the mountain one more time. I know Dricus Du Plessis wants to prove to doubters that it was not a fluke win against Sean Strickland. He's here to stay at the middleweight division. So I think these four fighters can really tell stories, and if I could have my way, that's how I would book the middleweight division for the rest of 2024, heading into early 2025. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode.